Got very tickly nose, so sorry if I sneeze.
I'm still got snivels and nipples alive. Have you seen that little TikTok that's doing the rounds of that little northern girl holding her little baby brother? And
doing cockles and muscles.
No, going. What's he doing? I got no milk in my nipples. Look, Mum, he thinks it's a booby. It's really funny.
No, I haven't.
I got no milk in my nipples. Yeah, it's funny. Right, here we go. So I've got like 3 sections.
I've got 2. So you, me.
There we go.
You. You, me, you.
Yeah, me, you, me.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the O3C podcast, coming to you from us chaps at O3C Games. We are 2 men, Jonathan, me, that, Chris.
You, me, you.
And we are chatting about our video games and our love. We are chatting all about video games.
And our love for
them
each other. And one another.
It's your turn for the announcement.
Oh, fuck it. Well, it'll be a quick one. It's that time again where we ask you to check out o3c.games/support, because at that very link, there are links onwards to Patreon, links onwards to a one-off PayPal donation, both of which help support the podcast financially. There are also a myriad of links that will help.
No such thing as a myriad.
There are also myriad links that will assist you in sharing onwards the stuff that we do. The website, the podcast. There's bits and pieces on YouTube, aren't there? There's a whole host of things for you to get your teeth stuck into and then share so other people can have a bite as well. We're generous lads, though. If you do give us a bit of financial support, we give you some stuff back. And that's all on the Patreon. You can find it there. Literally no point in me saying it here. Because you don't mind. You can check it out in your own time. And we'd appreciate that.
It's rare you see something done with that level of finesse, isn't it?
Yeah, to really nail it. First go.
Oh, dear. Right. Christopher Dow, we're back.
Hello.
We had a play date last week, didn't we?
We did. And this
week
we
play?
Don't. We played Snack and Sasquatchers on the play date.
Yeah, how were they?
They were not too bad and quite interesting, but tough to get your noggin round, respectively.
That was basically the gist of it. So, before our next Playdate update next week, we are going to fill you in and each other in. We're not going to fill. We're...
Fill McCrack in.
We are going...
Cut all this.
Yeah. Before the next Playdate update... No, there'll be another Playdate update next week where we're going to talk about some Battleships game and then another thing about a forest fire that's like a spin-off from Firewatch. God knows. I haven't played them yet, but I will by next week. But now, it's time for an interim episode where we are going to be discussing... What are you buying?
There we go.
What are you playing?
What have you played this week, Jonathan Dunn? What have you played?
Hey, I've played Resident Evil 4.
Have you finished Resident Evil 4 now?
I have finished Resident Evil 4.
Was it good, Resident
It was
Evil
fantastic
4?
From start to finish, and I have dove straight in to play New Game Plus, complete with some ridiculous costume unlocks for Leon, so he's now dressed up in a 1920s-style black pinstripe suit and a
Lovely.
White chiffon scarf, coupled with an eye patch, which is a lot of fun. And it's obviously really fun how, like, stupidly overpowered you are when you restart the game, you know, obviously with your end game loadout and upgrades all intact. It's just a laugh. And now I'm taking my time, even more than I did the first time, just really hunting down the treasures and trying to find all the secrets, which is, it's just great fun because I'm trying to save up to buy the infinite rocket launcher that the merchant is now selling, because that would be, a literal blast. 2 million pesos.
Fun.
2 million pesos I'd need for that bastard. So, we'll see if I can do it in this run, but it might need to wait for
New Game Plus.
Maybe. But even though like Resident Evil 4 does do the familiar thing of turning a lot more action heavy in the latter third of the game, it's all just so well designed, and because of how like extra tight the gameplay is now, certainly for the combat, it's a lot of fun. And there's still plenty of tense smaller moments in the third area of the game on the island, especially like creeping around the laboratory in complete darkness using the thermal imaging scope on your rifle to target the parasites growing deep inside the enemies here. It's good. It's so much fun. And the end game is suitably daft and overblown. And thankfully now there's not a horrendously creepy exchange between Leon and Ashley right at the very end. So they not only escape with their lives, but their dignity. The Mercenaries mode has now been added into the game in a recent patch update thing, which a lot of people were looking forward to, and I think they're going to continue to release maybe content updates for that, because I think I read that there's more areas coming and other characters you can play as and things like that. I watched a little run on YouTube of somebody playing as Krauser, one of the...
Knife Man.
Yes, Mr. Knifeman, one of the villains of the piece, and if you're like, one of the things you can do is you can activate like a hyper mode where I had a quick go playing as Leon, and I think it just doubles your points and your power for like 30 seconds. But if you go into like that mode as Krauser, then you bust out into your fully parasited form that you do when you're fighting him in the game. And like your arms just transform into giant claws, and then you can just carve your way through things, and that looks very cool. I did have a very, very quick go just at the first village area with Leon, and it's obviously like really, really well made and objectively a lot of fun, but I just don't like it that much because it just, I mean, like I said, the combat and the action in the game is fantastic, but it is still the part of the game that I enjoy the least.
Yeah.
Even though there's not really much appeal for me to just play the in my opinion, the weakest part of the game over and over again for no reason. Even though it is brilliant, like I say, the weakest part, it's still 10 out of 10. So yeah, Mercenaries mode will probably just sit dormant on the menu screen. I don't really know what's happening with the assignment Ada mode that was in... I can't remember if it was in the original GameCube game or whether or not that was something that was added in for the PS2 and Xbox release.
Yeah.
So I've definitely seen it or played a bit of it. I think that must have been when I played Resident Evil 4 HD or something on the Switch.
Yeah, possibly.
And you play as Ada Wong infiltrating the island, doing something. I can't remember. So yeah, I don't know if that's coming or if it's being expanded into something else. I mean, I'd love to see that. If nothing else, if for nothing else, then just to shut the fucking trolls up who have been harassing the Ada Wong voice actor online. She was recast for the remake. I mean, obviously, all abuse has zero warrant. And it's horrible to see that sort of behaviour. She's absolutely fine voicing Ada. It's great that they've actually got somebody of Asian heritage playing an Asian character. And much like Ashley, the awfully reductive sexual overtones of the original character have rightfully been stamped out. So I guess probably the fat, spotty nerds probably find it more of a challenging wank now that they see a female character with some actual character. Anyway.
Autonomy is terrible for wanking.
Anyway, it's a phenomenal game, and I'll be keeping hold of my copy for a fair while yet as I replay it on ascending difficulties through New Game Plussing until I've beaten it on professional mode, which I'd like to be able to do. And, I mean, there are literally hundreds of challenges in the game and achievements and things to unlock, so there's always going to be something to aim for in like how I'm attempting a new playthrough. I mean, like, similarly to Metroid Prime Remastered, I'll find it difficult to consider something like this for Game of the Year because it's obviously building on a 10 out of 10 foundation.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that Resident Evil 4 and Metroid Prime are still 10 out of 10 masterpieces by modern standards in these new editions. Just absolutely cracking stuff. Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. What have you played this week?
Well, I'll give you my Evercade update first, because I'm still playing through a variety of things across different cartridges. I'm right at the end of Canon now. I think there's only about 5 or 6 stages to go. That's about 20 hours in, I think. I was stuck on the same stage for a good while a few days back. I'm now making progress again, and the last few battles have been a lot quicker to get through. So I might finish it by the end of my school holiday. Might sort of, might hang on a little bit longer, but we'll see. My other big finds in the Evercade this week, though, have been some of the entries in the Namco Collection Volume 2, which came out at the very start of the Evercade's life, but has some real bangers on it. And it's a cartridge that has sat on the shelf for a long time because the Namco carts are under a weird license that mean they can't be played on the VS home console Evercade, only handhelds. Like, I don't presume to understand why they're the only cartridges out of almost 40 collections that this applies to.
They must have the video game rights, not the handheld rights.
Oh, quite possibly. Now, I'm sure there are some weird backroom reasons like that for the way that individual collections or games or publishers might be approached and licensed.
Commie bastards.
But it did mean that once I started using the VS as my main Evercade machine when I got that, the Namco collections essentially just sat collecting dust because I wasn't using the handheld that much. Now I've got the EXP, I've been far more liberal with handheld play, and lo and behold, a lot of the games put out by Namco, really good. They're a good company. Yeah. Our favourite at the moment is Pack Attack, a Pac-Man themed block puzzle game. It takes a lot of brain power to get good at, but I'm enjoying trying. Like, basically, each turn you drop little L-shaped groups of either regular blocks, which will clear if lined up in a row, Tetris style, or ghosts. And then every few drops, the L will include a Pac-Man, who will travel down the screen gobbling up any ghosts that are connected. But Pac-Man still follows the rules of gravity. So if you've made a little 3x3 grid of ghosts, Pac-Man will only eat one column down that grid and then all of the ghosts in the bottom horizontal row, if that makes sense. So instead of just zipping across the entire thing like Baku Baku Animal, if you ever played that, he does not do that. He will just drop completely down and collect what's at the bottom. It makes a simple game surprisingly complex because
Paku Animal.
Hey! It makes a simple game surprisingly complex because you do really have to think carefully about every drop, so you're not orphaning blocks or ghosts in such a way that will make them permanently inaccessible, because otherwise it's quite easy to just build up the stack and really have no recourse to sort that out. There's a regular score-chasing arcade mode, which is a lot of fun, but there's also a nice puzzle mode, like a single-player mode, where you have limited drops to clear out a set layout of ghosts. And I like it a lot. I've played that for a few hours. It's good fun. The other game on that cartridge I've been really enjoying is called Dragon Spirit on the NES. And I believe it's a port of an arcade game, though I've never seen nor heard of it in any context. But essentially it's just a horizontal shoot-'em-up with you controlling a little dragon and then shooting targets either in the air or on the ground by using the A or B buttons. What made this game stand out for me, though, is the way it tries to tell a story, despite being a late 80s shoot-'em-up on the NES. So when you start the game, you have a little intro cutscene that then becomes an unskippable, sort of playable stage and boss. And depending whether you succeed or fail this mini-level, that will impact the colour of your dragon in the main game and the difficulty and some of the interstitial cutscenes. And I was just really surprised that a kind of meat and potato shoot-'em-up would do something interesting with storytelling in 1989. You know, the game would have been a direct contemporary of something like Bomber Raid, for example. And as much as I personally love that game, for the particular nostalgia it gives me, I can't lie and say it's anything more than the most vanilla shooting experience you will ever have. It does not do anything different to any other game that anyone was playing at that time. It's just that I played it first, and that's why I like it. Whereas this is something genuinely quite different, I think, for the era and for the time. But yeah, that's kind of the Evercade roundup for the time being. I'm sure I will let you know in the future if anything else pops along that tickles my fancy.
Oh, we love it. I've played some bits and bobs.
Of course.
I played some bits and bobs, Chris. First of all, I dove back into Farmside, the Apple Arcade farming game that I was playing a few weeks ago. It did, yes. It got a little update with some more missions and quests to do, so that was nice, just to dip my toe back into that pool. I noticed as well that the graphics have been given a bit of an update too, with what looks to be like a proper dynamic lighting model added to the game, which has just made it's just made everything look just a bit more solid and round and atmospheric, which was really nice. But the gameplay elements are still the same: growing, harvesting, crafting, selling, etc. And it's just really nice. And I've done this quest line, this new quest line that's been added, and I'll continue to keep it on my phone and look out for future updates.
Lovely.
I've continued to play Tomb Raider Reloaded on my phone as well. I think the balance isn't quite right for like the unlocked Netflix version of the game that I'm playing, because I'm making very little progress, and it's clear the game wants me to pay into the game to get some upgrades to help me get through the harder stages.
But I can't.
Well, that's the thing. I obviously can't do that. So instead, it's just a bit frustrating. But you know, I'll still dive in and do some of the daily tasks. Maybe play, you know, a few of the smaller tomb levels, which is just like 10 stages as opposed to the full like 30, 40, 50 stage levels. And I'll just slowly upgrade my gear and make granular progress through the game until I get bored of it, really. Over on the Switch, I've picked up a couple of games again that I already had to entertain me between Dead Cells runs. Firstly, I checked out the latest Booster Pass courses on Mario Kart 8.
Oh, they're tasty.
It continues to be a phenomenal game with an obese amount of content. I'm really glad that they're also creating like brand new tracks as well as remaking the classic tracks and porting over, you know, those really nice real life location tracks from Mario Kart Tour. I was showing some of these to Minty yesterday, and we thought it'd be funny to drive around the Berlin track in one of those absurd Mercedes cars from that DLC, because then you sort of fit in with the rest of the traffic. And I remember in that Berlin track, there's also a Berlin Wall section. And then there's a thwomp in the middle of it, like falling down, simulating like the
fall of communism.
The fall of communism. Which you just don't expect that, but it's there.
No.
But the brand new courses are great as well, especially this new Yoshi's Island course that's in the latest update. It's really charming and lovely, and of course, Birdo is back as a playable character, which is shockingly erotic, but even more tantalising. But even more tantalising is that there are also now 5 question mark filled spaces on the character roster for other characters to be added in the final 2 updates that are still to come later this year, and I've no idea who they could be. It could be some returning characters from the other Mario Kart games, like Rob the Robot from Mario Kart DS, or the Wiggler, or P.T. Piranha, or something like that. Could be brand new adjacent characters like they did with Link and Animal Crossing and F-Zero's Captain Falcon to accompany those new courses in that original DLC. So, you know, we could stand to get a Metroid course with Samus as a playable character.
Not a
maybe.
bad shout.
Or Kirby could rock up with a Dreamland course.
That's quite likely.
Or they could go the way of Super Smash Brothers and just have all 5 characters be sword-wielding Fire Emblem characters. So we shall see. But speaking of Kirby, the other game that I played a bit of with Minty was Kirby's Dream Buffet, which I don't think I've mentioned on the pod before.
No.
Or if I did, like, it would have been briefly in passing. But I played a bit of it in a few sort of like sessions. It's usually just been when I've been showing other people it, and I'll play it for half an hour, and it's nice. But yeah, for those not in the know, Kirby's Dream Buffet is sort of like an online party style game. It's not dissimilar to something like Fall Guys, where you play against a bunch of other people trying to race through obstacle courses or compete in little mini games, trying to each collect as many strawberries as possible to come out the overall winner. It's very simple. You just roll around and literally all of the other buttons on the controller just make you jump. But it's really nice to look at. Like, this whole world is entirely food themed, so you'll be racing around cakes and biscuits and berries and churros and riding up meringues and ice creams and stuff. It's not one to play when you're hungry, I'll say that much. But it's a really just a nice, happy time, and seeing all of these like perfectly round Kirbys getting progressively fatter and rounder over the course of a few rounds of silly fun is just always quite delightful. And as always, it's just great to unlock different hats to wear.
Love a hat.
We love a hat.
Love a hat.
I'm really glad that this game isn't a free-to-play game, which it very easily could have been. But equally, I feel that, like, it's only about like 12 or 13 quid, but I think that price point is a bit off-putting to people grabbing it and just giving it a go, because like the servers felt a little sparse, and I think it deserves a bit more love, maybe, because it's a good game, and if there was a bit more support and they were sort of rolling out like sort of seasons like Fall Guys is, with like special events and maybe some crossovers and different sort of mini games sort of coming in and out. I think it's really good fun, and it's really nice for like a party sort of game. You can play 2 players locally, which is nice. It's a shame you can't do 4 players locally split screen, because I think that would be good. And also something you can't do, which we tried, was to play online with both of us split screen.
Yeah.
So you can't do that, but like if Minty had the game, he could have played online with me with a password and then connected with other randoms. But yeah, so it's with a bit of attention and a bit of care, it could be like a really good like little fun party game like Mario Party is or something like that. But yeah, I'd recommend it because it's nice and it's just really, really nice and sweet to look at. Just literally sweets everywhere. Awful. I didn't even write that. That was just riffing it, mate.
Off the cuff.
Biffing it. Biff, chip and kippering it.
We've got a pretty disparate selection of games this week, because I've also played the first 2 stages of Marvel's Avengers. Would you believe it?
The Square Enix one.
The Square Enix taking the property that apparently everyone hated, if you read online.
Yeah.
I hadn't realised there was even a game in there, because everything I'd seen post-release was just about the online grindy looter-shooter part of it.
Oh, I
thought that wasn't really for me.
No.
But for some reason, thought I'd give it a go, because it's very, very cheap. And if you scratch a little bit deeper, there is a huge prestige story mode, like a AAA style story mode that follows A Day, which in the game is like a terrorist attack that results in the collapse of the Avengers for their inadvertent hand in turning thousands of regular citizens into Inhumans with their own superpowers.
Shit.
And that leads to the development of characters like Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. I'm not very far into the thing. Who knows if I have the stamina to really get into it properly, especially when I'm back at work. But it looks really nice on the PlayStation 5. It costs basically nothing from bargain bins up and down the country. We're talking like sub 10 quid most shops.
Yeah.
And it feels pretty decent to play once you're in-game and out of kind of the initial endless menus of all the online loot stuff, because it's still there. You just need to know where to look to get to the game.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because for Marvel fans, at the very least, this is a different take on familiar characters, even if licensing means that the on-screen representations of Captain America, Thor, Iron Man and pals are all very much, we have the Avengers at home.
Yeah.
Like, the models and the characterizations all crib violently from the live-action renditions that we kind of have come to know over the last decade or so. But they look just slightly off in like a weird homunculus way. But it's interesting
back
to
of
see.
The spoon Avengers.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see a team write for these characters in the same way I guess that comic books have different writers and different story arcs and everything else. It's a slightly different take on things that we half already know. So, might be worth a punt if you are a Marvel fan out in the world. Also of note, I think the game has recently made all of its previously paid expansions and cosmetics completely free because Square Enix are no longer supporting the game with new content. So they basically said, here's everything. If you want to play it, it's all there, one price, enjoy it. So if anyone was holding off because of like a fear of missing out on content or because they disagreed with the way it had been monetized, then, your £5-6 bargain bin purchase price, you're now getting everything. So if that is appealing, fill your boots kind of thing. A few other things I have played in fits and starts, but won't dwell on too much. I played a couple hours of Chime, the music puzzle game I've mentioned a few times. I like it a lot. It's very relaxing. Moving on. I reinstalled Super Crate Box on the Steam Deck.
Oh, you love that.
I do love it. It didn't work originally. I made it work. Now I still love it. Moving on.
Qu'est-ce que la diff?
My brother came over recently and we bashed our heads against a few of the survival challenges in Plants vs. Zombies on the PlayStation 3, just to see if we could get through to the end of the game, because we're right near the end. Very tough, but fun. But a proper treat, and something that, I have genuinely enjoyed and played quite a bit this last week. If we move back over to the Switch, I have recently had a few evenings of the lovely Cruising Blast. And it is hard to really express how much I enjoy it.
It's great.
It's so good, and it's a disgusting, lurid mess of a game, but one that's just so much fun to be in. It really does feel like the arcade has come home. And I've been lucky enough recently to find a few Cruising Blast cabinets in the wild, and it is such an arcade game that I'm still just shocked it even has a home port to the Switch at all. It's just not the type of things you see anymore. Every race has all sort of 12 competitors end within milliseconds of each other because of the mad rubber banding. So it never feels like you're that far ahead or that far behind. So it maintains a level of excitement. Every surface is reflective, meaning that certain parts of the stages are genuinely blinding if you're playing on a bright display. Like, I reckon if you're viewing this on an OLED, like a big TV, your eyes are probably going to hurt afterwards. The audio mix is all over the place. Like, sound effects are too loud. The music's obnoxious. Like, you know it was meant for the arcade, where it's meant to draw your attention. The title music is infectiously terrible. Every time I put it on, Georgia comes in and sings along. And she's never sat down and played the game, but still loves the song. You know, you can unlock a shark as a car, or a fire truck as a car, or a dinosaur as a car. You can do a wheelie at any time by double pressing the gas button. It's just really dumb, but it is tremendous fun if you were kind of just needing a little pick-me-up. Or, you know, had a drink, been out, you come back in and think, 5 minutes of that'll really cap the night nicely. One evening I had tried to play a few games that all demanded just a bit too much attention, or had too many rules to learn if it was a new game. And then I just had this like little click in my head that was like, no, what I need to play is Cruising Blast. And I put it on, and it was perhaps the perfect game to pop on for that half an hour. It's just very, very good stuff. I really, really do like it a lot.
I went to game the other day to trade in some stuff. Just trading Callisto Protocol finally. Yeah. And I as always, I sort of have a little look on my shelf. I don't, I don't keep many games. I keep games that I think I'm either gonna replay, or that I just really, really love and are really special to me. And I was looking through my collection, and I've still got my copy of Cruising Blast. Yeah. And I was like, I haven't played it. Like, maybe I should just trade that in, and I literally, like, yesterday, and I was like, no, I know that there's going to be a moment when that's the thing that I need to play. And I've kept it. It's there. It's sat there alongside Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Breath of the Wild. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
In the same tier as The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Absolutely. O3C approved.
Like you just said, Cruising Blast ticks a box that none of those games can do. No. In fact, no other game can do on a home console.
No.
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary game.
Very special.
Just as we've been talking...
Yes? Oh, why is that flashing?
New catalogue games, it says.
Oh, is mine flashing?
I'm going to have a look.
Oh, mine is saying, please charge your playdate. I did see a tweet, because Core Faults now has a proper catalogue release.
Oh, does it?
But there are a few others as well. I don't know which ones they were, but I remember seeing that one, because obviously I follow both of those developers.
Internet connection is so slow on it, isn't it? There it is. Core Fault, Gravity Express, Sparrow Solitaire, Life's Too Short, and Crankulator.
Sparrow Solitaire is by Fish and Feathers, man. And it's meant to be a very, very good and comprehensive Mahjong game.
Oh, fun. I had a bit of a play on Fish and Feathers earlier.
Oh, I've got the flash now. All right, hang on. Here we go.
There we go.
There you go. Very bright.
Nice.
On my camera, at least. My shitty laptop camera.
Yeah. I've been loving my Playdates so much again.
Good.
Yeah, I'll talk about it next week. Did you order a triptych of Metroidvanias, sir? Well, glad you did, because I've played 3. Firstly,
three new ones.
3 Metroidvanias.
Jesus.
Sort of. Firstly, I continued to chip away at Alwa's Awakening on the Evercade.
Oh, yes.
Now, you'll be pleased to know I did actually decide to buy one of the new Evercade EXP models from an online seller, but I think he's fiddled with it a little bit because it's not really working quite right. One of the buttons is a bit wonky and there's some light bleed on the screen. So whilst I try and sort out a return with that absolute wanker, I've been quite happy just to pick up my original Evercade.
Yeah.
Which I think actually, I still prefer the feel of it over the newer model.
I think it's more comfortable in the hand.
I think it is, because, like, I think one of the things, obviously, with the EXP, obviously the concession they've made for being able to play it rotated, so you can play those vertical arcade games, means that the button layouts are just a little strange, with, like, the start and select buttons being vertical instead of horizontal and being sort of stacked on top of each other, and then the menu button sort of squished on top of those.
Yeah.
And it means that the console has a bit of a feel of... It just feels like I'm playing it the wrong way round, whichever orientation I'm using.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to do both. And that's a bit strange. I mean, it's probably something that I'll get used to. But because the improved screen is obviously really, really nice and sharp. It's not an OLED, which I'm realising more and more is a huge trump card for the Switch.
Yeah, it really is.
Meaning that, like, once again, the Switch is becoming my preferred place to play a game if I have a choice of platforms to pick it up on.
Yeah.
Despite the Steam Deck, meaning, like, I can play a game in handheld and it literally look better graphically, the depth of the OLED screen still beats that for me.
Yeah.
But Owl's Awakening I'm really enjoying sort of exploring that. It feels, it's very unhandholdy. You just sort of explore, you look at your map, you see where you haven't been, you go there, no, you can't go there, oh, can't go there, oh, I've got a new upgrade, okay, let me go and try all those dead ends again. And it's just nice. It's just really, really nice. But there is another game. There's a game that... But speaking of the OLED screen, I've been playing a game that it just looks so good on the OLED on the Switch, and that is the game Gatto Roboto, which is
yes, the black and white game, isn't it?
Yes, that's
Get it
right.
on the Playdate.
Yeah. I mean, I did think that at first, in the same way that you look at like Obra Dinn being like, oh, that could run on the Playdate. No, it couldn't. Just because it's 1 bit doesn't quite mean it. But this is 1 bit, black and white. It means it looks absolutely stunning on the OLED screen. Shout out to friend of the podcast Casper for recommending this, and also a huge congratulations to that man there and his wife on the safe delivery of a lovely bouncing brand new baby boy.
Oh,
huge
congratulations
and love and best wishes from us here. So Gatto Roboto. The game itself is really, really nice. You play as a cat in a mech suit. And it's a pretty standard Metroidvania with you finding upgrades and new abilities, allowing you to reach new areas, beat bosses, do tricky platforming. You start the game just playing as the little cat before you find your mech suit. And I was really surprised just at how nice it felt just to control this cat. Sort of just running, flinging yourself around, using your claws to run up walls and stuff like that. Like, it instantly felt more cat-like and more fun to control than Stray, which I felt was just a bit underwhelming when it came to actually how it felt to physically play the game.
Yeah.
And then I was almost a bit disappointed when I found my mech suit, because I was like, oh, I just liked being a cat and running around. But fortunately, you can jump in and out of your suit, and in fact, you need to, because it's a whole big part of the puzzle-solving elements of the game. And yeah, so you do still get to get your cat on fairly frequently, and it's just a really nicely presented game. I mean, it is very simple, so it was important that it got the elements right, and it really, really does. I mean, the upgrades and abilities are fun to use. Platforming is challenging but not unfair. Boss fights, very challenging, and do sometimes feel like they are verging on being unfair. I got stuck on one that gave me a lot of grief. It didn't sort of feel like I had the space needed to properly manoeuvre my movement and attacks. That it was clear what I needed to do, and it felt like it was just making the stage unfair. But in typical Metroid Soulsvania-like Bournes, after a few failed attempts, I started to identify the boss's attack patterns, and a few attempts later, I'd realised that they weren't unfair at all, just very, very well designed. And continuing on, the different sections of the game continued to be really varied and interesting and challenging, all the way to the end of the game. It is a very short game. I was told that it was about 5 hours, which is why I thought I'd get it, and also because it was on sale on the eShop for about £1. But I finished it in about 2.5 hours with 88% completion. It's
quick.
really nice. It's really nice to play, and I may well dive back in and try and 100% it. But yeah, I definitely recommend it for fans of Metroidvanias or OLED screens or cats. It's just, it's really, really good.
Gatto.
I will make a very, very quick reference and mention of another Metroidvania, which I haven't got very far into yet, so I'm going to keep it brief. But it's a game called Lone Fungus.
Where are you finding these games?
Casper.
I was going to say, generally, I'm on top of stuff, even if it's games I'm not playing.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, I think I heard that name. Well, I saw that on a list somewhere. But every week at the moment, you're just like, Bing Bong, the Bun Bun. And then I go, all
What's
right.
Bing Bong the Bum Bun? Well.
Do tell.
Yeah. Lone Fungus. I believe it's been developed by pretty much this one guy, in the most part, after a successful Kickstarter campaign a couple of years ago. As I said, it's another one recommended to me by Casper. I've been playing it on the Steam Deck. You play as a lone fungus, little mushroom fella, and the game is very easily compared to Hollow Knight because of how similar it is.
Yeah.
You attack and move about in a similar way with a similar looking weapon, using like a downward swipe of your sword to bounce off enemies and obstacles to aid in your traversal. You also get like various charms and abilities to equip in a variety of combinations like you do in Hollow Knight, so you can like customize the gameplay to either what you need it to be for a specific section or, you know, just what you prefer. And speaking of customization, something that was really nice to see was a difficulty customization menu appear before you even start the game, giving you full control over the type of challenge the game gives you.
Yeah.
Like, you can choose how much health you have, you can increase or decrease the damage that enemies and bosses do, you can choose to spawn additional platforms to help get around, and it's just nice to see the developer consider the player in a game like this, to acknowledge that the audience's experience is more important than the ego of the creator.
Yeah.
The game is meant to be challenging and therefore can be enjoyed by people wanting a significant challenge. But if you don't want that, or you don't have the skills for that, for whatever reason, you are still absolutely welcome to enjoy all the other aspects of this game. And it's just really, really refreshing to see that and to see it more and more in other games as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't got very far into it, so I can't give too much of a commentary on the game, but it's really nice to look at. It's got very sort of moody, atmospheric pixel art. There are elements of Ori and the Blind Forest to it as well. It's really nice. I'm going to continue to play it and report back, although I will say that it's another game that I absolutely would rather play on the Switch, so I could experience it on the OLED screen. But a Switch port is a dream for the future, apparently, according to the developer. So I'm happy to. I guess I'll slum it on the Steam Deck for now if I have to.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how much playtime I get, because I have actually picked up another game on the Switch, which is the new roguelike game, Have a Nice Death.
I've heard of that one.
It's by the one of the original creators of Rayman, and it's you play as Death. It's a roguelike. It's got similar sort of like action to Dead Cells, but also with like the sort of narrative world building sort of progression that Hades has, and it's meant to be very, very hard, obviously, and so far it's very, very cool. It's very cool. The performance isn't like that good on the Switch at the moment. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. But this again is an example of something that I know would play better. It would give me a better gaming experience playing it on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
But because of the art style and the sort of the black and white sort of nature of it, I'm like, I've got to play that on the OLED. I've got to. And you know what? Thanks very much. I will have a very nice death. So there we go. That is just an assortment of games that we've been playing in the last week. Gosh, it sounds like we've both been on Easter holidays. The amount we both played.
Who would have thought it?
Who would have thought or thunk it? Next week we will be back with a play date, and we're going to talk about Battleship Gaudios, and we're going to talk about what Forest Burns
Up in Smoke.
Forest Burns.
Up in Smoke.
Up in Smoke. The Firewatch spin-off. It's not made by Panic.
No. Someone. I don't know. Skip all that.
I know. Yeah. Forest Burns Up in Smoke. And who knows? I may have played some other things on the Playdate that I'm going to report back on as well. That I may or may not be really excited to talk about.
Cheeky one.
In the meantime, you can chat to us on social media at O3C Games on everything. Check out our website, o3c.games. Check out that support page if you fancy throwing us a few quid, saying thanks, or just want to share the podcast, or you don't really want to, but you do anyway because you're good people. Do it.
Please.
You can also chat to us individually. I'm on Twitter at Jonathan Dunn.
At Chaz_Hodges, still where I reside.
Ah, he's there. He's only bloody there. And, let's meet back here same time next week.
Ding dong.
Bing bong. Love that game.
Bing bong spum bum.